I live with my parents in the suburbs. I have a younger cousin on my father's side, whose mother works abroad and comes literally once a year. My cousin is 4 years old and lives with her grandmother in a small town. While the grandmother was still full of energy, she coped well with household chores. But later her health began to deteriorate. My parents wanted her to sell the house and move in with us along with my cousin. Grandma refused for a very long time, but then still decided, only asked that for the last summer she and her granddaughter would live there, and I came to visit them. Grandma's house is very good and spacious. There were a lot of old interesting things that Grandma kept. There was a separate small children's room for my cousin, and when I arrived, she asked me to sleep with her. The whole day of my arrival, she told me about a living doll that lives in her room. Translating from a child's language into a more understandable one, the description sounded like this. This so-called doll crawled out from under the bed a few minutes after the clock in the hall struck 2 at night. My cousin did not see the doll's face, but it was something hunchbacked and of medium height. My sister said that she did not sleep until exactly 2 o'clock at night and sat by the door waiting for it. According to her, the first thing the doll does after crawling out from under the bed is it jumps on the bed sharply and then just starts walking around the room. When the clock strikes 4, it runs back under the bed. When I asked my cousin why she wouldn't tell her grandmother or run out of her room, she said quite calmly that if she tells, the doll will disappear. She considered it a movie where she is the main character and nothing bad ever happens to the main characters, so she was sure the doll wouldn't hurt her. In the evening, when everyone went to bed, my cousin and I were just lying in bed, somewhere until 2:30 talking. I told her about our house, where we would all live together. Suddenly, she abruptly jumped out of bed and started pulling me out the door, because the doll would come soon. By that time, it seemed to me to be complete nonsense, because a little child could not be unafraid of what she had just told me. But my cousin insisted and said that if I didn't want to go out the door, I just had to leave the room. So I went with her. For about half an hour, we sat quietly and silently. It struck 2 o'clock. After a few minutes, nothing happened, and I wanted to crawl out of there and go to sleep. But one sound alone made me hug those boxes in fear. Something really jumped on the bed with such force that if my cousin had been lying there, it would have crushed her in 2 counts. Noticing that there was no one on the bed, this black freak carefully climbed off it and with a creepy wheezing began to move slowly around the room, as if looking for something. I was just paralyzed. It seemed she would see us now. My cousin sat quietly and motionless. From the door was an excellent view, and this creature could easily notice us as soon as she got off the bed. It seemed to me it lasted an eternity. She just slowly rummaged around the room, but did not go beyond its limits. I would like to note that she did not look like a doll at all, but then she went out. At least that's what I thought. There was silence for about 3 minutes, and then giggles were heard from the other side of the door. Then they subsided. Scratching on the door began. These sounds became louder and louder. Here I could not stand it. I closed my eyes, grabbed my cousin, and with a terrible scream ran out of the room, right into the yard. Grandma and several neighbors came out. I was hysterical. This could only happen in horror movies, not in real life. It seemed to me that I had gone crazy, but at the same time I was sure it was true. Of course, no one believed me. My cousin just stood there and said the doll had scared me. But who would believe a 4-year-old child? The last 2 days we slept in the living room, the 3 of us together. All the necessary things were taken out of the nursery, and we did not go into the room. My cousin says that I am probably too big, so I scared the doll. I can't believe a child tore Psyche apart for half a year. The question is, how did she even find out about this doll? My cousin either ignores me or says she doesn't remember,